So All Out happened on Sunday. We all saw CM Punk regain the world title. We saw that happen. We talked about the Hangman stuff that happened a couple of weeks ago. I had remember hearing that they had issues
So
with
wait, let me
that.
let, let me preface this. We're going to talk about the entire thing right now. We'll talk about NXT later, is what you're saying. We're going to talk about the whole thing. All right, cool. Let me get in my mode.
If at all, and Punk did what could nearly just be called a rant, a literal rant there that was to me completely unprofessional, completely out of whack, completely ridiculous, not a work. I mean, at all in any sense of the word. To be clear, in my 25, 30 years of watching wrestling, I've never seen nothing like this before. Ever. I've never seen it. I watched the finger poke. You know what I'm saying? I've seen some crazy shit. We've all seen some crazy stuff. Nothing compares to CM Punk going in and what could only be described as a reaction to the rumors that came out after that promo that he cut where he called Adam Page a bitch and he basically shot on the whole roster. He did it all over again.
Well, all right. So here's how I'm feeling about this entire thing, and I've had a chance to kind of like sit with my feelings. Um, First of all, I think both sides are completely in the wrong. I think in terms of like as an EVP, how they're handling business, but also CM Punk as the who at this point should be the wild, wise industry sage who are handling this thing. But to me, none of this is also surprising, considering the history of all parties involved. And I say, I really want to be completely real with you. I really do want to start from the beginning, but I'm not going to take it back there to 2019 because I do feel like the current, even at the beginning, the foundation to me wasn't completely sturdy as it is with new things. And I think with the Bucks and Kenny as EVPs, and while they're at this point trying to do what's best for the company, they are still kind of running it the way they kind of run it. And Cody Rhodes in itself, to me, the red flag is the Cody thing and how they handle the Cody thing. If I can just skip 3 years and say, all right, let's bring this back to a modern thing, the red flag for me is the Cody thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because the way his exit occurred to me, especially how it was handled from Kenny and the Bucks themselves, and then Tony Khan not paying Cody, even though, he was someone who brought in, who did things outside of the wrestling to try to make it feel bigger, right? And this is Punk's argument as well. He's trying to handle business itself, and he's trying to expand AEW, and these guys are still trying to work in Reseda. You know what I'm saying? Still trying to small-minded in the way they approach things for this company. So it was Cody Rhodes kind of doing the same thing and trying to elevate it as well. And they offered not to renew him or re-sign him or anything of the rather. And it was, and we talked about this literally the episode of, because we thought it was so weird. And I'm bringing up this Kenny Omega Wrestling Observer newsletter interview because it's not covered enough. But I think both you and I know that was completely out of left field, considering the circumstances of, one, Kenny's injured, not on TV, not appearing, not doing any public appearances, but he decides to come out to do this interview. Yeah,
Was injured. He was maybe 3 weeks removed from being off TV.
Nah, it was like a couple months, but it was 2 months. But still, it's like we ain't seen him. He didn't make any really public appearances or any talks since then, to be honest with you. And that was in February. You know what I'm saying? So he got injured in November, was staying off TV for a long time, literally just returned like 3 weeks ago. But in February, he had the time to talk to the Wrestling Observer newsletter to paint this narrative of what Cody's contribution or lasting contribution to AEW was, even after post, the thank yous, the Tony Khans, everyone getting out, they're doing their handwritten note, I'm leaving at this time, he went out of there to say, like, this is how it was perceived. And you got to think, I'm Brian, I'm Brian Windhorst in this situation. Why would Kenny Omega do that? Why would he go out and try to portray and do these things? And to be honest, I still really don't know, but I would have to say that it's to shit on someone that he didn't like. So I fast forward to the past 2 weeks of AEW and all the reports, all the Fightful selects, all the stuff that's come out in the media about Punk. And don't get me wrong, I'm gonna get to Punk because Punk is already. We got to drag his name through the mud, and not his name through the mud.
We gotta go to 2021. The bombs come out for him, so go ahead.
Yeah, we gotta talk about Punk. But in this situation, it's the same thing, right? Like he's champion of this organization, and they're going out their way to sprinkle in these news reports, talk to the media, try to slander his name and stuff like that. As he's speculating, I'm trying to build this company, and it's something that they have a proven history for. They are connected to the wrestling media. They absolutely are. And you guys can't tell me they're not. I don't care which Dave Meltzer driver, everyone at, whoever got their cousins that work there, everyone who's on the inside talking about it, AEW and bringing up exclusive reports and all the other stuff like that. You can't tell me they don't have that. Like they've got their ties to the media to kind of change the narrative. And we've seen this, me and you just kind of like, who look at the world beyond wrestling media, because I think everyone who thinks this is a work to me doesn't look at this beyond the wide spectrum of the scope, because this has happened in various forms of entertainment. It's happened a lot, all the time. And I think we kind of have the perspective to be able to look at this as a bigger picture, as opposed to like this wrestling thing that people are looking at. And is this a work? If it's a work, blah, blah, blah. To me, if you believe it's a work, you are delusional and you're part of the problem that it currently exists with AEW. Like, you're literally part of the problem because you refuse to acknowledge the red flags. You refuse to acknowledge the problems that these things have. And you refuse to essentially voice your opinion about it. If I get back to this thing.
You knew it was coming. When you knew it was coming. But like, listen, man.
They ignored whether it was coming or not. They didn't find that me and you, and pretty much everyone thing, we take the bullets. And this is why I know this episode is for the people who, well, they're going to listen anyway. Even if you blocked us, you're going to listen anyway. I'm almost sure. Because we have been talking about this for years. We've been reading between the lines. We've read who's a journalist who's been covering this in the most
Sean Rossap.
Yeah, no. Covering it. Damn, now what I'm about to say is going to sound wild shady. Cover this in the most
Meltzer?
No. Was it Keller? Wade Keller?
Yeah, Keller. No, I love Keller. No, he's good.
Yeah. He's been covering this in kind of the way where he's also taking a look at AEW and like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem right. And we've been following these reports because even back in 2019, we would hear the reports of, the Bucks and Cody. There's some tension at the EVP level because this side wants to do this side thing and this side wants to do this thing, and then Cody eventually.
You could see it. Listen to the War Report with Cyrus and Quan, like the difference in between when they were really enjoying the show and when it just became like, what the fuck is going on? And that's been for a whole year at this point. And you got to give a lot of air to Cyrus for really kind of like really noticing this. And this is for someone who wasn't really a huge, a wrestling fan 4 or 5 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever. You know what I mean? Like you gotta kind of look at it like, yo, this is someone that wasn't really in. He was noticing something was wrong. You know what I'm saying? People who listen to the War Report with Cyrus and Quan every week noticing. He's like, no, this isn't how shit's supposed to go. And not because he's like a huge fan of WWE either way, just common sense. These shows stopped making sense a year into their run.
But we take all the bullets for this anyway, because people call us haters and people call you the worst account on earth and people say, oh, you're such a thing. And we're doing all this because we're openly criticizing the things that we see. These are things that we've seen, that we're looking at, that we're observing. When we talk about Adam Cole, we don't talk about Adam Cole just to talk shit. We talk about how we looked at his career in NXT and we look at his career now. We look at what Daniel Bryan was in WWE, and we look at how 1 year after Bryan Danielson debuts, now he's taking all types of losses. You know what I'm saying? To Chris Jericho, nonetheless. And not to say that Chris Jericho isn't strong out, but for what? And why was that match even made? You know, like
Yeah.
we look at these things and we give our critiques on it, and people who don't like it feel a type of way about it. Want to block us, want to call us all types of names. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because guess what? We're right. We're right at the end of the day.
Fuck all that. Fuck all that. Fuck all that.
What about it?
1 year ago, we had a show. A year ago, yesterday, or a year ago, literally a year ago, period, when we recorded the show, right? All Out 2021. CM Punk returns. Adam Cole goes to AEW. Bryan Danielson goes to AEW. It's over. New number one is crowned. We said, not so fast. Not so fast. How's this going to work? It's on our YouTube. Go check it out. It's a good page. We digital. We everywhere. We said, not so fast. We said, wait a minute. How's this going to work? You just debuted Adam Cole right next to Bryan Danielson. He looks like just a guy. 365 days later, one of them is injured. One of them is just a guy. You were there, Meelz. You was there, right?
Listen, not only was I there, everybody else was there. So I don't have to.
Let's keep going. Let's go. Week one, 2, and 3, CM Punk is going to talk. He got something to say. He's always talking. I said, damn, when's he going to do something? Does he starting to feel like a guy to you right now, Meelz?
He had his match against Darby Allin. That was his big return match.
Well, hold on, Meelz. Where's Darby Allin now?
He's appearing at 11:33 on a stacked a super
keep going.
card. On a stacked bloated all out card. He's appearing at 11:33 with Miro and I forgot who he faced. Oh, the House of Black. Bless their soul. Bless Malachi Black's soul.
Before we go any further, because I don't know if we're gonna have time to get to him today. Free Malachi Black, free Aleister Black, free Tommy End. We're gonna get to him next week though. Go ahead.
So everything's lining up to me with the Bucks and kind of how they handle things in the media and how they stay. And this is kind of why there's a part of me that sees the frustration with CM Punk, that understands the frustration with CM Punk, because he feels like his name, despite what he's trying to do, he feels like his name is being run through dirt, and it's being run through by children who have never drawn a fucking dime compared to him.
We're not there yet, Meelz.
Where we at?
There's more. How many people did he beat on that roster before he took a loss?
Who, CM Punk?
Mm-hmm. Everybody. They give him everything.
Nah. I'll give you this. CM Punk he spent pretty much his run doing his best to like, oh, okay, I'm gonna fight these guys that I really think are like cool. Like I'm gonna face Lee Moriarty because I think he's cool and he's a young guy, who deserves the time. And I want to face Dante Martin because I think he's a young, cool guy who deserves the time and stuff like that.
I'm hearing that nobody that was involved on Wednesday or who was involved on Sunday is going to be on the show on Wednesday.
Let me open up my Discord.
Well, listen, man, he beat everybody. The thing you gotta go back even further than that. You got to go to the podcast that he did with Colt Cabana, Scott Colton, who was he took aim at during that scrum. We haven't even got to the scrum yet. He said that he wanted to be in the same light as a Brock Lesnar. He wanted to be in the same light as a Miz. He wanted to be in the same light as a John Cena. He wanted to be in the same light as a, hey, just get to it, as a Roman Reigns. Over 700 days as a champ, right? Meelz, how in the world can you get everything that you want, every position that you wanted, the push that you wanted, the position that you wanted, the company that you wanted, the opponents that you wanted, the complete situation that you wanted? You do whatever the fuck you want to do. You drop the title to an interim level and you got it back, and you're still not happy. You're still not happy. You're still doing the same fuck shit you did in ROH. There's videos of niggas in ROH talking about you, man. What are you doing? You got everything. Let me be clear, man. I was one of the biggest CM Punk fans on the planet Earth. And then I realized in 2018, he's still mad about this shit, man. Still. What the fuck is going on, man?
We talk about how initially he wanted nothing to do with wrestling anymore. Went to UFC, did his thing, didn't work out. I think he just started like working on comic books or something of the rather. Then he appears as a thing for WWE backstage. And this is why all the slander is null and void to me of his WWE thing, because he said he quit sports entertainment a long while ago, but it was being the voice and commentary for it. And you could say that he was hired for Fox, but you're talking about WWE, involved with WWE wrestlers and talking to WWE wrestlers. To me, that just doesn't make any sense.
He's a grifter. He's a grifter. CM Grift is his name. CM Panhandler.
So then he says the shit he says, no longer appearing on the show anymore. Literally similar reasons to how he's going through. I dropped my mic. Literally similar reasons to where he's going through now is the same reasons why, he wasn't appearing.
He's hurt.
Appearing on Backstage before Backstage eventually just got cut entirely.
Miz rattled him. Shout out to Miz.
Shout out to him.
Get that money, baby. Good main event. Good main event. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later.
You ain't gotta tell me twice. So he ends up at a Starcade. And he's telling everyone, you guys don't have to deal with
Starcast. Yeah, there you go.
He says, you don't got to live through tribalism. I have no interest in appearing for AEW. I have no interest in appearing for WWE, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Less than, I think might be 2 years later, maybe a year later, something along those lines, he signs with AEW. Because, like you said, Justin, they gave him everything he wanted. And to be honest with you, that's the signing that AEW needs to make. That's the signing that they should have. Because CM Punk is one of the most notable names in professional wrestling, no matter how much of a prick and a dickhead he is. He's one of the most notable names in professional wrestling. Literally, this media scrum broke the internet because of CM Punk. And at this point, I don't know why they're fighting with him about anything. Well, now I know, because he's a prick. But also, how do we get here? How do you get here?
You get here by what you said. There was already mounting issues with the EVPs in Tony Khan. That broke down this January with Cody deciding to leave, and with the Bucks and the Elite not really trusting Tony Khan's leadership with being a booker. Look at how the Bucks have been booked. Look at where they are. They had to get trios tournaments. They had to make a trios tournament so they could have a belt, because at this point they were hogging the tag team titles because, they wanted to hire Jeff Hardy. Again, whoever's idea was that, I'm sure we'll find out in the next couple months, if not the next year, when all this shit breaks down. There was already distrust there. When there's distrust there, just like any startup where you have a bunch of freaking cooks in the kitchen and no real leader, they start doing weird and random shit. And they looked at Tony as the person doing the weird and random shit. But CM Punk was always there. as the one guy in the startup that's from a Google, from an Apple. Have you ever seen The Dropout with the Elizabeth Holmes character, where she had hired somebody from Apple. She poached them from Apple, and this was the chick who had the Theranos machine with the blood and stuff like that, right? So she would hire all of these actually well-known people and pay them large amounts of money just to say that they had someone on the marquee that was a big name. So she poached somebody that was a huge factor from Apple, and that person saw how shady and how fucked up things were behind the scenes at Theranos. And they said, "Oh no, if y'all not gonna do it my way or the way that we used to do it, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm exposing this shit." CM Punk is that person. Because in the end of the day, you wooed him there with that shiny, happy locker room. But what he really got was, and I'm on no one's side here, but this is the truth. What he got was a company full of amateurs who have never had a real, actual United States run, who've only been in Japan for most of their careers, and don't really know how this shit works. You can look at the show and see that shit. I watch All Out like everybody else.
The show, you can look at the show and see it. That's the best way to describe it. You can look at the show and see the fingerprints on why there's such a big delineation. And to be honest with you, you can look at even at the programs itself. Because to be honest with you, you look at Punk's program with MJF and you see how radically different that was from everything else on the card.
Yeah. Everything was different. So when you get there and Punk is there and you start to see grumblings. I believe there was a fight report from a couple weeks ago where they had to even clarify, "Oh, we didn't mean to say that Punk was going to try and leave or he wasn't going to come to work." Where it's all starting to make sense now, isn't it? Right? They've reported that people thought he would not show up that week that he cut that promo. They thought he wouldn't show up, Meelz. Why is that? Because he fucking knew at that point this is not where he wanted to be at. Now, one thing I will say, I do not feel as though he tried to get Colt Cabana fired, because if that was the case, Colt Cabana would have been fired immediately. If that was the case, I really don't believe that's the case. I'm gonna be honest. The thing is, if he was to exert that amount of stroke, it would have happened on day one, Meelz. The guy, even though he didn't show up on TV, the fact that he still had a job and still getting paid is proof positive that he wasn't trying to get the guy fired or trying to do any of that stuff. I feel like that was Tony Khan again, amateur leadership.
I feel like if they had fired him when he showed up, it would have looked real sus. Look real sus. So, yes, he still has a job.
I'll say that. I'll say I don't believe it, but I will say that who was spreading those rumors? Why did Hangman do that promo? When that promo happened, just like the Cody promo, people like kind of looked at it and said that was weird, right? That was weird.
He called it Hangman an airhead. What did he call him? Oh my god! I was like, wow.
Let's not get there yet. We still on Punk in the last month. When it seems as though to me Mox is John fucking Moxley's the one that's trying to keep this shit together, that's a real issue. This guy be hanging out with niggas that got fucking COVID and shit like that at these places, pouring beer on them and shit in a basement. He's the one that's okay with taking the job here to appease someone. I think we should honestly applaud this guy for trying to keep it together.
I don't know, man, because he had the same professional experience as CM Punk has.
That's true. But if not him, who else would have took that? Because Jericho won't take in that pen. He don't even like the nigga.
Nah, but to be honest with you, I think Jericho would have done it. But because again, the experience bigger than just ROH or New Japan or whatever the hell. Like these guys are cosplaying WCW from the late 90s because they have the essentially the power and all this other influence and all this other stuff like that. Like they're cosplaying all that other stuff like that, but they've never drawn anything real substantial. They've drawn everything substantial in reference to like them in terms of like, wow, we really sold out this place. But it's like you don't sell it out on a weekly basis or anything like that. But I don't think any of that would happen. Brian, Punk, Moxley, all the other stuff like that. Like these people are willing to do business because they know how to do business, and at the end of the day, they understand how money is made in this business.
And that's what leads us to All Out. We got these rumors that are happening. Punk is, to be fair and honest, remember Punk only did that one interview right before the fucking match that he got squashed in, which I would love to know the story behind squashing Punk on one week and then having him win the title the next. I would love that story. Because there's something, I'm a Brian Windhorst that one. Why did they do that? Why do you do that?
I'm also confused of why they did that.
It's gonna come out. It's gonna come out why they did that. But you have the Scrum.
Go ahead.
Where he talks
I think
about,
they did that, but go ahead.
Say what?
I said I have an idea of why I think they did that.
Why do you think they did that? Let's put it all out in the open, because I don't think we're going to be able to talk about CM Punk much longer after the next 2 weeks.
Oh, he'll be back. However, no, I do think that they I think it was legitimately done to pop the rating. I think it was legitimately done to pull intrigue for All Out. I'm gonna keep it at 100 absolutely with you. I thought it was done. I think this is a decision most likely made by Punk to draw attention to the show so people would see the show and then therefore go buy All Out or go purchase All Out, you know, for the business of it. I don't see it as a truly like a backstage, we're pulling the plug on this one and then we're coming back, unless he really wasn't going to come back and then decided, yeah, I'll be back. But realistically, I want to say it was for the rating.
So the Scrum happens. CM Punk goes off on Scott Colton, Colt Cabana, saying he paid his bills. He's got a account with his mom. His friends.
Remember, before we get to the Scrum, Ace Steel being brought into the fold for this one. It looks more shaky now that he was brought into the fold on television days before this event, and now is involved within this matter, and more than likely will probably be fired. Like wow.
No, he's gone. He's gone. He's gone.
Ace Steel himself being brought into the fold and a thing for this matter too kind of also feels like a life imitating art a little bit. You know?
Listen, man.
Go Scrum. We're scrummy. Let's get to the Scrum.
So you're scrumming. He goes off on Colt. He goes off on Hangman Page, calls him an empty-headed fuck or something like that.
Empty-headed shithead. Oh my god, that was funny.
Nothing more crazy than what have I done to deserve this from Hangman Page. Number one, what have I done to deserve this is a crazy sociopathic thing to say. Number two, you're saying Hangman Page, like if you were to even say this outside, they'd be like, who the fuck is Hangman Page?
But to be fair, what has he done to deserve that from Hangman Page of all people?
He probably did a lot backstage.
I don't know. That I have to figure out. That's
Meelz
of the story with it.
Meelz, I'm winking at you right now. Come on.
Listen.
He rubs everyone the wrong way.
I absolutely believe he rubs them the wrong way.
To be that Punk's obsession with being the locker room leader, along with the distrust, he was already in a viper's pit. There was no way he was going to win. Those guys don't want to listen to him tell them what to do.
But this is my thing, right? This is a business. And even less than the WWE part, which is much more of a business than anything. This is a business where you know the person you report to. There can be egos. At the end of the day, you're doing what one man tells you to do. You mean to tell me that you can probably find a couple people there who are just like, I don't give a shit what CM Punk says. Like, I don't give a shit. Like,
I'm willing to bet you at least 60%. I'm willing to bet at least 60% of that roster is saying that.
Okay.
To go tell Punk to eat a dick.
Yeah, because honestly, it's like, so I'm confused. My only thing is the disconnect. I see where you're saying with everything, but my confusion.
Remember the Britt Baker thing? Remember the Britt Baker thing? Why you're like, damn, I don't know. Remember that?
I do.
We just joked about that a month ago. Remember how he came off when he did that?
I do.
That's just someone, he's not even wrestling. Imagine what he's doing to other people. It seems like he lost interest fairly quickly while he was there. because it went from ho hum, I love everyone, to I only fight married couples.
That's funny.
And I know we laughed at it, but you were kind of positing that like, oh, there's no way that it was. What did he do to deserve that? That's something that he probably did to deserve that. People are tired of that nigga, man. They're tired of him, and he's tired of them. We are witnessing the single greatest meltdown of a company we've ever seen. This is past startup. They have sped past Impact. They've sped past WCW. They did every single thing you should not do. And then you brought MJF back to do another work shoot. I don't even know if I feel bad for him. Honestly, I can't say that I do at this point. He got some heat too at the Scrum as well. So he continues on, runs down Hangman, runs down Colton, says that the EVPs are children who couldn't manage a target. Again, things that you would hear and that would rile anyone up. At that point, I'm like, this isn't a work. This is a guy that clearly has some issues right now. And then we get to the end of the Scrum, and then they have a fight. It's being said that Ace Steel bit Kenny Omega. One of the Bucks got knocked out. I want anyone to go try and do some shit, the same shit that Punk did, and ask yourself if you have a job after the fact. I guarantee you that you won't. I guarantee you that you won't have a job. And anyone saying you can't just fire Punk, if this was the NBA, if this was the fucking NFL, and they was knocking out owners and shit, what? Then what? It's fucking crazy. People are literally thinking that he won't get fired for this. And he did. And he is. Fucking crazy. Again, the amount of people that think that he didn't get fired or wouldn't get fired for this, y'all are crazy as hell. I don't care how big of a draw you are. I don't care how big of a star you are. You just can't, like, even just upon wrestling terms, you can't do shit like that. And we got to look at Tony Khan too. He let him do it.
We coming for him. Don't worry about that.
He let him do it. He sat there and let him do it. If Punk's gone, let's say that, right? Punk's gone. Right. Realistically, how can you, as the EVPs, ever trust this guy again for letting him do that?
So
that trust is gone. Like, what I know, it wasn't there. There wasn't much left to go on at that point. That's completely gone at this point.
To me, as I'm watching, so I want to take myself back to watching the Scrum live, because someone threw the link in the Discord. I was like, oh, I forgot the Scrum. Let me see. And I see CM Punk there, still bloodied, eating muffins throughout this entire thing. That's what makes it a little bit more of a spectacle. Talking about all this situation, and I'm in awe, because I'm like, yo, how does no one being able to punch this guy out right now? Like, and this was one of the very few media scrums where I feel like it was very, it's not even though I feel like the questions are apropos. I just feel like CM Punk set the tone. You know what I'm saying? Because it could have really gone the same way it goes at every scrum. But I feel like he genuinely set the tone in terms of the energy, because it ended up following a little bit with the Chris Jericho thing, and it ended up following a little bit actually with Keith and Swerve, a little bit with the tone kind of set for all this other stuff, and even Tony's questions. But him being able to say that and just kind of express all of that during this media scrum, to me, I feel like he saw this as his one media opportunity to say what he was going to say off of his chest without any filter, and say how he felt and truly how he means it. And he said, if anyone has a problem with it, they can talk to me backstage.
He asked for the fight. And listen, I know I've been joking about the fight and stuff like that on Twitter. People have been really upset about it. I don't care.
Why?
I don't know, because I said I could never watch a Bucks match like I ever watched them anyway. After they got beat up,
Listen, they can't. You get beat up by CM Punk, man. All that choreography, them super kicks don't. When you slapping them thighs, they don't work well in the fight, baby.
Where was it? Where was that? You let the weakest nigga in the world knock you out, man. Come on, man. Ace still bit you. This ain't Vampire the Masquerade, nigga. This ain't Blade.
Ace
How you let a
Steel.
man bite you?
Ace Steel. Ace Steel is.
Ace still got little ass teeth too.
I'm sure he got kids and all this other stuff like that. Like, why are you getting into these young? You know what? Whatever.
They're not young, but listen, man. Let's just look at it like this. A year ago, we were told that AEW was number one. They WWE rightfully was on the ropes. What we've seen is a complete reversal of fortune in 365 days, where that is honestly not even the case anymore. Can we just say it? Can we just call it right now? That is not the case anymore.
No, I mean, in terms of you look at WWE, even just today with the announcement of Triple H being moved up to chief content officer, and you look at kind of like a look at last week, Bianca Belair being, WME, Liv Morgan going to be part of a film, WWE announcing their partnerships and stuff like that, and you can't say that for AEW. You can't say that what they've been in the news for has been actually progressive things involving wrestling, because it has not. What they've been in the news for is because their own dipshit people keep leaking information to the news because they want their narrative to be right, and they could not even be clearer with the Eddie Kingston versus Sammy Guevara type of thing. But this now is an indication that they've taken a step back because of their own egos. And to be honest with you, if they were any smart person, they could figure out a way. They could figure out a way to figure it out. They, they just can't.
Well, I feel as though they really never could. The thing about AEW is that this was a company to me that always felt like, and we said this when they just opened, that there's no company that could like burn out. Like they were made to burn brightly fast and then flame out in a blaze of glory. That's the best way to put it. There's no way that just with those combustible elements that you would have had, even with all the talent that they have endless amounts of talent, endless. But there was no way that you could do it with someone who had a proclivity to be obsessed with some of the great, like some of honestly some of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but also some of the biggest egos of all time. Hiring CM Punk was a moment where me and you was like, whoa, all right, yo, do you know what you're doing right there? Do you know what you have here? There's good and bad that comes with that guy. And we said this before, and nobody wanted to believe it, man. That's the crazy part about it. It ain't over till it's over, and it was over.
Bruh.
So, what I'm hearing, if it's true, usually it is, that later today they'll probably be announcing this. If if and when it's said and done, what does this mean for AEW, Meelz? What does this mean for CM Punk? Well, firstly, what does this mean for CM Punk? You know, I feel as though this could have only ended one way, and that was with him destroying it himself.
Hey, man. It can't be just you. I think it can't be everybody else. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'll say. I think he really needs to take a look at himself and kind of truly assess like what is he really doing and what is he truly contributing, and how big of a, because I think it's really his own attitude that led to the fallout.
He called pro wrestling dumb at the beginning of the scrum. To me, that lets me know a lot more than I needed to know about what he feels about it. He regrets it. He regrets it. Because let's be honest, he turned the Bucks down and Cody. He turned them down before.
He absolutely did.
He turned them down. He said the bag wasn't big enough, if I remember correctly. He said the bag wasn't big enough.
It was Tony Khan who negotiated the thing with CM Punk. It was him sitting down with Tony Khan. He always tells the story. It was him sitting down with Tony Khan and kind of looking at his perspective on pro wrestling and what he wants to give, which is the reason why he eventually decided to sign with the company.
And his perspective was, as Punk said, and be clear what he said when he says, "I'm trying to run a business. I'm trying to run a business with the owner next to you." What makes you think what idea does that give you about Tony and Punk's relationship compared to the Elite? What he was trying to do?
I feel like the way I see it with the CM Punk thing is, I truly believe that he was trying to build this company to be bigger than what it was. I'm 100% sure. Yes, arrogance. Yes, selfishness. Yes, dickheadedness. But I truly do believe that he wanted the company to be bigger and actually be a competitor, because I think everyone who's been in the WWE knows on a reference scale, it is not the same. AEW isn't looked like in the same way as WWE, but you can have that one superstar. You can have the Hulk Hogan coming into WCW. You can have the Stone Cold Steve Austin, or you can have the John Cena or something along those lines. That changes the tides of everything. And I think he genuinely wanted to be that because he knows he's an attraction, and he knows, yes, the shit ton of money I get is deserved because I'm one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling over the last decade.
But they all say that though, Meelz.
No, but it's
I remember
not
being,
true for them.
I remember when they thought Impact would do the same amount of talent. To be honest with you, they said all we got to do is just this little bit, this little thing, and then they hired Hulk Hogan.
Well, they weren't thinking progressive enough. But also, here's the thing: it's AEW's own fault. So you get to AEW All Out, right? No one gives a shit about this show. It's probably the worst AEW paper. I mean, I don't want to say it's the worst, but it definitely goes down as one of the worst ones, because I think people just, the lack of interest within the card because of how they develop their characters on the show. And this all goes now to Tony. And I look at Tony Khan and I say, and you see all the signs that are there. And again, I'm speaking to the people on this one, because all the signs have been there. The man publicly shitted on Swole, and people thing their shoulder at it and said, you know what people said when they shitted on Swole? It said all billionaires are bad people. To dispel the blame from this man, the accountability of this man publicly shaming someone on the internet.
Or they said,
As,
or they said, or they said, or they said, um, they said she sucked anyway. That's what they said. They said she was bad anyway.
when he, what's another thing I can say? I mean, there are just several things.
Go to the tweets. I mean, last Monday he made a tweet right after Aaliyah and Raquel won the titles, talking about this was the luck that he was waiting for. And I said, this ain't gonna end well. And look at us now, 7 days later.
He looks at they make WWE runs their show, and this is what he says. Hold on. He says, hold on.
I'm serious. I'm not going to sit back and take this fucking shit.
Because WWE ran a show also on Labor Day weekend.
Well, he also believes that they're contract tampering, which is not a thing because there's no governing body in wrestling that tells
There's
you.
tampering does not exist in professional wrestling. There's stuff that you shouldn't be able to, like wrestlers themselves cannot negotiate with another thing while under contract, I believe. Actually, don't hold me to that. They cannot appear on television for sure until their contract is expired. And they're not even supposed to be negotiating, but even NBA doesn't fucking follow those rules. You know what I'm saying?
Slap on the wrist, $10,000, $100,000, whatever. They got that shit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I look at it and what does this mean for AEW? I would honestly be looking at the idea or the possibility that even though the Bucks signed an extension, that they're out, they're gone. I feel as though the trust is broken indefinitely. I feel like the same with Kenny.
Amen.
This is something that's beyond. This is a monster, the CM Punk monster that was created there and coddled and given whatever he wanted, blew up in their faces. That was their big joker because once Cody left, they banked it all on him. That was the big joker. He's going to bring us all of this.
Well,
Broken down, CM Punk was going to be the one that was going to do this for them.
But it's also their own inefficiencies to be able to run an actual business. And this is what we've been talking about for years. We've been talking about this for years. And people still get on us today that we've been talking about this thing for years. They're inefficient. They're inefficient They don't know how to run a TV show. They put their own booking dreams ahead of actual business. They do a lot of things that step on their own toes. In terms of growing and expanding, they don't care about expanding to an audience bigger than the sweaty, bald white guys that are all filling out the audience. No offense to any sweaty, bald white guys. But
it was just a weird situation. I've never seen anything like this. I think, without Punk, you're gonna have a roster that is just a week removed from a talent meeting. You're gonna have a roster that, if they were already unhappy, they're even more unhappy. They're scratching and clawing at the damn door at this point to get out of there. They're scratching at the door to get out of there. This was a powder keg that was going to explode regardless. You gave them EVP status, and your whole EVP staff got beat up in one night.
Hey man,
how much did it work after that?
How much role does Triple H have in this?
What did he do? He just got all he did was get a job, and they couldn't take it.
All he did was book some events. All he did was do some things, and shit just hit the fan. 2022 is going to be one hell of a wrestling year.
Bro, Colt Cabana is sitting in the back like, I told y'all niggas. I told y'all he was like this. Yeah, it won't just me.
They steal.
Like, this is nuts. I've never seen anything like this before.
WCW 2000?
I'm gonna say it right now, Meelz. As someone who watches WCW, who has watched WCW and was watching it as it happened, this is some 2000 WCW 2000 shit. But at the end of all of this, AEW, they writing their own history at this point in terms of what happened at that Scrum. This is their own history that they're doing, because when we said this before, when Punk came back, that was a moment. I'm never going to take that away from AEW. That was one of the most pure, one of the most real moments that any company has ever had.
Absolutely.
That was a real fucking moment. No doubt about it. That was a promo that's going to live on forever, because it's and I'll say it's one of his best promos. But once he left that stage that night, Meelz, the sand, they turned it over. The hourglass got turned over, because at that point it's like, okay, how long until he starts being CM Punk? It took 365 days before he became that. You got to think that a lot of the machine behind WWE really protected us from what he really acts like, because I feel like that's really what he really acts like. I mean, that's, people have said as much, that he acts like that for real. You got to think
it's more so. I agree, because I think it's mostly because of the influence and the role that he played in AEW, which led to making it the way they is. And you can see it's the same thing. That's why it's so weird, because I feel like WCW, I don't want to say they wrote the blueprint on how not to run a professional wrestling company, but they definitely wrote the blueprint on how to fuck it up really badly. Ultimately, to me, people say, is this the end of AEW? And I say no. Because realistically, unless the business goes to shit, it's still going to run. They're still funded. WCW's problems, I mean, a lot of their problems were their backstage strife and their social strife. But at the end of the day, it was a business deal that really cooked them.
Yeah, they were about to. I mean, Bischoff was going to go sell them on the new WCW. He was going to go sell them. Big Bang was about to happen in that January. It was really just the business side of it. I mean, it's the same reason Impact is still alive. My thing is this as well. Having to force Tony Khan to push the guys, all of the guys that he signed that are 5'8", 5'9", not really like big, like dudes that all do the same type of thing, other than like Lance Archer. Oh wait, he does the same shit as the small guys do. I don't know what that company looks like. It looks like Impact to me. It looks like ROH to me. I don't like. That's what the company looks like to me without a Punk
TV
and
deal.
This is the worst. And the TV deal, we've been talking about it for weeks. What is it going to look like? WB Discovery. They're
You got
locked.
CM Punk. I don't know what the hell they.
But you got to do it. But you have to do this. You have to make this decision. Meelz, there's if what precedence does that set? That's what I'm saying. I was trying to say yesterday, like if a Punk is able to remain there, if I'm Hangman Page, I'm going to go knock him out and say, okay, give me a title shot now, because you ain't gonna fire me. Or if you fire Hangman, then you lose the locker room. He's in a fucked up position. He had to fire him.
What would happen in WWE if a situation like this happened?
They're fired. They're done.
If Seth Rollins wailed out on Matt Riddle.
But Meelz, they're publicly traded. Nothing's going to happen in that company unless they say so. Like if you go off, you're either going to get suspended. Look at Sasha and Naomi. You're going to get suspended or you're going to get fired. Ain't nobody doing that shit in a company that got an IPO. Hell no. It's too much money to be made. I mean, Tony want to talk about money. It ain't look like he had money on Saturday though. Let's get off this.